I don't remember exactly how old I was. I remember definitely being in middle school, probably around 5th grade. My mom and I love to go to Disneyland. For context, we live around an hour's drive away, and we had annual passes. One of my mom's favorite rides was the Tower of Terror, which I was much too afraid to go on because of the drops. Right in front of the rides is a little area for fast passes. For anyone who isn't familiar, they're just small machines where you can get passes from to skip the line. It was here where I would wait while my mom went on the ride. There was always a worker there, plus many others in viewing distance, and my mom even got me one of those flip phones in case I got lost. As I'm sitting there, I hear a worker behind me talking to a man, asking him to move out of the fast pass area since they were closing for the day. The man walked out and sat down next to me. He was about 18 to 20 years old. He asked before if I would mind if he sat next to me, which I said no since I didn't think anything of it, and there was plenty of space between us. Now, I was a very friendly kid, so naturally, I was going to start a conversation with him while I waited. When I turned, he was already looking at me. He stuck out his hand, offering to shake hands with me, and gave me his name, which he said was Light. Now that I'm older and have watched Death Note, I'm sure it was a reference to the show. I introduced myself to him, and we began to talk. As the conversation went on, he scooted closer to me. Again, I didn't think anything of it, because we were pretty far apart. I figured he just wanted to be able to hear me better. It was a relatively normal conversation, asking where I was from, hobbies, how old I was, etc., until he asked, "Do you have a phone? What's your phone number?" Luckily, I had my phone in my bag, so I just said I was too young for one. He follows this question up with, "Are you ticklish?" Remember, I'm a tiny 5th grade girl, and he just told me he's 19. I froze. I felt all the adrenaline rushing into my body as he proceeded to grab and squeeze very high up on my thighs and the sides of my stomach. This lasted about 5 seconds until I saw my mom, which prompted me to get up and run to her. As I walked up though, she looked really mad/annoyed. She was looking past me, and from behind me, I hear, "Hi, I'm Light." He shook my mom's hand. "I was wondering if I could spend the rest of the day with you guys." My mom declined and he walked away. I began bawling my eyes out to her. She explained the reason why she looked so angry is because when I was a little kid, I used to invite people over to our house to hang out with us, so she assumed I had done it again. I didn't tell her about him touching until I began high school, which I definitely should have, but for some reason I had this idea in my head that I would have been in trouble if I had told her. So, creepy Disneyland man, let's not meet again. I had completely forgotten about this experience until now. I live in Florida, so my family takes a lot of trips to Disney World, and normally I feel pretty safe there, despite there being a lot of strange people wandering around. I was 10 or 11 on this particular trip, and we were at the Animal Kingdom, specifically in the prehistoric play area for kids. My parents were tired of following us around, so they said they were going to sit in a shady spot and let me and my younger sister walk over to the sand pit where you're supposed to be excavating dinosaur bones. Normally, they wouldn't let us leave their site like that, but we had a pair of walkie-talkies, and the place was only like a 30-second walk away. So anyway, once we got there, I radioed to tell them that we were there. We were playing in the sand for about 5 minutes when static came over the radio, and I took it out of my pocket, expecting them to tell us it was time to come back. But the voice that came over the radio waves was not my dad's, and it said, "I'll see you in Dino Land." Needless to say, we were noped so hard out of that sand pit, and our parents met us halfway between where we were and where they were. The really creepy part, though, is that when I radioed to tell them that we got to the sand pit, I never said where we actually were, just that we were here. I was about 6 or 7 when we took a family holiday to Disneyland, Florida. I was a fairly aloof child, and stranger danger was just something that had been drilled into us at school. My mom was paranoid about us not going off with strangers and was convinced that I was a target. Being a blue-eyed blonde kid, all I wanted was my freedom to run around. Nope. From day one, I had a Velcro strap put around my wrist with a boingy cable linking me to my mom, who wore the other end on her wrist. I was effectively on a lead. A week at Disney on a lead was hell for me, and probably for my parents too. Nowadays, you'd call it ADD, but back then, it was called being naughty. If I wasn't trying to undo the strap, I was barking like a dog, howling like a dog, or rolling around on the floor. I was a joy of a child, let's just put it that way. The last day there, I had calmed down fairly well, and I was speaking like a human again, rather than crying like a dog. I begged and begged for my parents to let me off the lead until they finally gave in and said yes. I could take the strap off, but I had to hold one of their hands. Fair deal. All went swimmingly to begin with. I stayed close to my parents, held their hands. As time went by, and it became clear that I wasn't going to run off, I was allowed a moment of freedom. No hands, woohoo! There were so many exciting things to see. All my favorite Disney characters waving, my favorite music playing. We began to cross an open area, which I think was generally towards the exit of the park. I was still hands-free, and my attention was firmly fixed on Minnie Mouse, who was ahead of me, when my dad grabbed my hands. I stuck to the rules. The deal was, I had to hold my parents' hands, so off we went towards the exit to leave. When my dad started running, and I began to run too, I wasn't sure where we were running, but I was a hyperactive child, so in my head, I was just thinking, yay, running, and I heard my mom scream, and I mean scream, my name from behind me. I looked over my shoulder to see my mom, brother, and to my surprise, my dad, chasing after me. I felt the hand holding mine tighten and looked up at the man I thought was my dad. Upon gazing my eyes at him, I realized that this was a man in his mid-50s with gray hair and a gray beard, not my 40-year-old dad with black hair and no beard. The creepy dude never once looked at me. His face was blank, and he looked pretty calm. My little feet brakes came on, and out of shock, I became a lead weight, which along with the people who stopped around us due to my mom screaming, was enough for my sprinting family to catch up with me. The would-be child abductor then clearly decided that he didn't fancy his chances against my dad, dropped my hand, and disappeared. My dad chased him, and my mom and brother grabbed me. I can't remember much of what happened afterwards. Dad was built for comfort, not speed, so he didn't catch the dude. Mom was hysterical, I was gutted because this meant I was never going to be let off the lead again. I think my parents saw the police out there, and they claimed that there was a number of attempted abductions around that time at the Disney park. So Disney child abductor, let's not meet. This story is so weird that I almost pushed it out of my mind, but my friend reminded me of it last night, and now I'm creeped out all over again. I was around 15 or 16, and I was on vacation at Walt Disney World sometime during the summer. My family has a vacation club membership, so we go a few times a year, and we live close by anyways. We were staying in the vacation club villas, which is a separate building from the main hotel. I brought 2 friends, Savannah and Victoria, and we got bored around 2 a.m., so we went down to the gym. It's open 24 hours. We weren't even gonna work out, just take mirror selfies and mess around with the exercise balls. There's a desk for what I assumed was a spa portion of the gym, or maybe it's a sauna, I don't really remember. But since it was so late, there was no employees there, so we were messing around behind the desk and found a notebook. I'm not sure why. I was just super annoying at the time, but I decided to write my Instagram and Twitter handles, and so did Savannah. Looking back, I'm pretty sure we could get in trouble since guests aren't supposed to screw around with the desk. I didn't think much of it, and we left the gym, and the next morning, we checked out of the hotel. On the drive back home, I get a Twitter notification. It's from a diaper fetish account. The creepy thing about this account was it was active for a while and had disgusting pictures of grown men in diapers and other disturbing pictures of children. Savannah also gets a notification, and we both sit there looking at each other like, what the fuck? The account tweeted at us saying something like, I know who you are and what you've done, and your vacation will end abruptly. They tweeted some more creepy stuff, like telling us to watch our backs, but I knew it was clearly because we left our names on the notepad. I didn't reply back. Then I was notified of a new follower, and it was my name. But the username was similar to the diaper account. The account was tweeting my address, my phone number, and random pictures of me from deep in my social media. They did the same thing with Savannah's name, and at this point, we're both shitting bricks. I get a text from a random number. I'm assuming they used a texting app, saying that they were watching us and knew more than we thought. They even started texting me about my boyfriend at the time and asked me really fucked up questions about him. I told them to fuck off and blocked it. I didn't get any more texts, but the Twitter account continued to tweet about me and random details that I know they had to dig deep to find. I blocked them on that too, and put all my accounts on private. I never got any more messages, but the Twitter accounts are still up to this day. So, to the Disney employee with a diaper fetish, please stay far the hell away from me. My friends and I planned a day to go to Disneyland, and was originally going to be 4 of us, but my friend who was driving wanted someone else to tag along. The girl that was coming was a 16-year-old daughter of some lady that went to my friend's church. Noted that I'm 18 in this story. We pick her up at her house, and she's kind of a small petite girl, so she sits in the back of the car, in the middle of me and our other friend. I notice almost instantly that she's very timid and soft-spoken. I thought maybe she was just shy, and right away she starts talking to me. Just me. Even though she knew everyone else in the car. This was the second time I met her. The first time was at my friend's graduation party, a month before, but I only said a few words to her then. The first thing this girl says to me is that she has cancer. I got really sad and thought maybe this is why she looks kind of frail. She went on about how she was staying in a local hospital half of the time and her doctors are really nice. I didn't even bother to ask what type of cancer she had because I was really concerned about making the day fun for her. She then started talking about how her uncle abused her in the stereotypical way uncles do. By now, I'm thinking this girl has gone through a lot, but I was wondering why she was telling me all of this when she doesn't even know me. Fast forward and we get to Disneyland and we wait in the line for our first ride. She starts telling us that the chemo and radiation is kicking in. I see her walk behind a tree and stick her finger in her mouth and force herself to throw up. By now, I'm thinking something is up and I ask my friends some questions. They tell me that she is a pathological liar. Okay, well, that would have been nice to tell me beforehand. Throughout the day, this girl was constantly trying to sit next to me on every ride we went on, talking about her cancer and how she wants me to be there for her. She even pointed out to a random stranger in the crowd and said that was her uncle, and she hugged me to protect herself. A few hours later, she does the same thing and points to a different guy. We stop to use the restroom. When I'm done, I realize everyone else is still in the restroom, except for her. She starts telling me that ever since the first time she met me, she knew I was the one. She said she felt this special connection to me and that I was her knight in shining armor. This is really all starting to freak me out. Later, one of my friends tells me that this girl actually has a boyfriend. I couldn't believe it, but sure enough, I go on Facebook and see pictures of them together and it says she's in a relationship. What the actual fuck? Why is this girl saying all of this to me while she has a boyfriend? I just wanted to leave, but more than anything, I wanted to catch her in a lie. I asked her why she still has hair if she supposedly had been going through all of this chemo and radiation, and she turns around, pulls a chunk of hair out of her scalp, and says, "See, I'm losing hair as we speak." This girl clearly has issues. I asked her why she is flirting with me if she has a boyfriend, and told her that was wrong. She immediately said she was going to break up with him and handed me her ring that he gave to her and told me to have it. On the way home, she opened my hand and handed me a thumbtack. I'm thinking, what the fuck? And she told me she wanted me to keep this from her because that is the thumbtack she used to cut herself with. I didn't want to be holding it, but I just finally wanted to go home. On a side note, during the day we were all talking about colleges that we were going to in the fall, and I mentioned the one I was going to. This girl said she will be going there when she goes to college, and I thought she was lying, but I find out from my friends that her dad works at the college and she gets free tuition there, so that happened to be the truth. Of course, that's the one thing that wasn't a lie. 2 years later, I saw her at school walking to classes and tried to avoid her as much as I could. I didn't want to go through all that again. So, to the creepy, pathological lying girl that ripped her hair out, let's not meet. Thank you guys so much for watching. I would normally just put the creepy TV with the subscribe text on it, but I don't know, I felt like I wanted to make a personal message here. Yeah, if you guys enjoyed the video and you made it this far, I want to thank you once again. And yeah, just be sure to like if you enjoyed the video, dislike it if you dislike it, and yeah, leave a comment and tell me your stories. Thank you, and see you next time.